other person could have, let's say, a red mark or a scratch. Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's David Kohlmeier, the problem solver. Thanks for joining us today. Here today I have a special guest talking about the comeback of Las Vegas. I have Steven Campbell here today, the host and founder of Not Leaving Las Vegas. Steven, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming. I know your time is valuable.
Yeah, thank you for having me, David.
So, believe it or not, the way that I basically know about you is my father in New York City basically says, you got to watch this guy, Steven Campbell. He's not leaving Las Vegas. And basically I'm like, okay, what is it? So my mother's like, hey, you got to get on these, talk to bloggers and different people. And I said, okay, so they sent me your video and I was watching a little bit of it. And I tried to get in touch with you. Guess you're a hard man to get in touch with. And then luckily I got connected with somebody else. And so I'm very intrigued by your channel. You seem like you have a lot of viewers and listeners. So I was like, let me have you come on the show because I'm all about solving problems. And the comeback, what I call the comeback of Las Vegas due to COVID-19, I felt like you're the best person to basically kind of talk about what's going on in Vegas. So, but tell us a little bit about your how you started this, what we call a YouTube channel.
Well, I worked on the Strip for a really long time. I'm originally from Canada, so about as far away from Vegas as you can get, right? And I came here in 1994, 95 with family, and then 2002, and then I ended up coming to the United States permanently in 2004. And I was in Vegas and met my wife here and came from Southern California to Vegas. And then I fell into marketing for timeshare, not selling him. I'm not asking somebody for 50 grand. It's just, the guy that says, hey, you're going to be here, going to do a show, but every place I've ever lived, I always like to look into the place. And so there's online Wikipedia articles, resources. And I just started learning about the city, and it's a fascinating place. So I'd always want to learn more and more. And over that time, it just, I learned a little bit about the city. And my wife was like, well, look how there's this guy on YouTube doing these YouTube videos about the city. And no one wants to see that. There's only so many videos of the Bellagio that somebody can watch, and they do it better with drones. And so, but finally I think it was January 1st, 2019, I did one video where it's just driving from an old Bonnie Springs. Do you remember Bonnie Springs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Out in the Red Rock Loop. It was an old recreational town, historic Wild West. It's gone now, unfortunately. And I did one video, then the next day I did another one about the Golden Knights and another one. And I did one video that just clicked, and I just kept doing them on a regular basis, sometimes twice a day, until the pandemic hit Las Vegas. And I was reading the news going, there's really nothing in here. It's not analyzing things. It's not really telling anybody anything that they should understand about what could be happening. And our civic leaders, they didn't do anything they should have been, in my opinion, we should have had a weekly update from the people in charge to let us know what's going on, but nobody did. So I was like, well, I'll see what I think about that stuff. And it just kind of snowballed from there. It went from 1,000 subscribers in over a year and 6 months, to 10,000 and 6 months later, and now 53,000 about a year and a few months later. So it's just kind of
so 53,000 YouTube subscribers.
53,000 on YouTube, and then we have a Facebook group called Not Leaving Las Vegas, where it's a chat group. It's not like some fan worship page. I really hate that term, my fan page. It's ridiculous. So people can have a dialogue. They can be from New York. Yeah, they can be from New York, and they can ask a question. Hey, I'm coming to Vegas in a month. What's the ride share like? Is it terrible? And people can chime in on their experiences. So just wanted to connect people with one another and give them a perspective. Then my whole thing about the channel is Vegas is not just 5 miles of a strip.
Agreed.
We're not all a bunch of addicted gamblers or drinkers or degenerates. There's families, there's people that live out here. They live their lives out here. They put roots here. Let's show them the overall scope of the city. And that's the kind of the goal.
Share a little bit of a story. So I was a police officer in New York City, and when I was trying to come out to Vegas because a friend of mine basically felt, cost of living, and it was really beautiful. And when I was a cop at NYPD, I was in Brooklyn in a very bad area, and I had a relocation magazine, and it said I would fold it together and I put it in my back pocket. As a police officer, when I would go to the patrol car, I would break out the magazine. It was beautiful, the housing and the palm trees. And my partner next to me, he's like, put that magazine away. You don't need that. You're not going nowhere. You're a lifer. You're NYPD forever. You're not going nowhere. My partner, Mike Zanleone. And basically, I was like, oh my God, man, I got to get out of this. I'm in Brooklyn. Mike Tyson is where he grew up in Brownsville, East New York.
Right.
So long story short, basically, he was like kind of very negative about the situation.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was looking at this picture, this beautiful place, the cost of living and housing and so on. So to me personally, I just felt like I got to get out of this, NYPD patrol car in this kind of horrible neighborhood. Sad to say, it was the 1% of shooting each other, shooting at each other. But anyway, it's just a funny story because I was hoping to come out to Vegas because, I think it's a great city. And a lot of people do feel that basically it's just the strip. Like, oh, there's houses, there's people,
Yeah.
I mean, there's banks, there's barber shops, there's pizza places. I mean, it's like it's any other city. I mean, it is a circle, and it's growing tremendously.
I read a stat, and I don't know if it holds true today, but they said that there's more churches per capita of people in Las Vegas than any other place.
Really?
Which I find like really kind of not what you'd expect, but look at that. If that's true, and there is a lot of community stuff out here, you just have to look for it. And when people come out here, they might feel isolated because they're used to Four Seasons where they're from, not the hotel chain, but actually having four seasons. So they can't go out of the house as much, and they don't know their neighbors because their neighbors don't go out. So when you come here, if you're thinking of moving here, just think about what you like to do, find some groups based around it, and get to know people. And it's just like any other place if that's the case. But don't come out here if you're running away from a problem. Because if you're running away from problems back home, you're going to find a whole new set here in most cases. And it's, so there's certain people that should come here. Most people should come here, but some people should probably stay away.
I always say that if you have first, if you could have an addiction or if you want to find gambling, I mean, you could find it anywhere. I mean, I grew up in New York City. If you wanted to gamble, you could gamble somewhere, and eventually these Indian reservations were, taking over, so you can go somewhere to gamble.
You probably busted some of those people that shouldn't have been gambling where they shouldn't have been gambling too.
Exactly. So the whole point is, like, you could find, negative in any city, and you could find crime or gambling or addiction or drugs in any city whatsoever. I actually think Vegas is, pretty safe in general compared to most cities that are out there. I was a police officer also in Henderson. So, I mean, to me, I thought, this is amazing. But, there's crime everywhere. Things take place, whatever community you live in. But I do agree. I think Vegas is a great place. And, I know your show's called Not Leaving Las Vegas. I'm not leaving it myself. I've been here 19 years.
Wow.
And I'm actually married for the last 10 years. I got 3 kids. So, I mean, I think people say, oh, you got kids, you can't live in Vegas. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's a challenge because, unfortunately, and I always tell the truth, we have, I think, out of 50 states, I know out of 50 states we got 47th when it comes to education. So it's a challenge. If you're willing to put your kids in a charter school or do homeschooling, it's a better situation for them. But, parents have a responsibility no matter where they live. So out here, we have some issues with education, but there's also things for kids to do out here and not on the Strip. I mean, there's stuff around the city. There's the Springs Preserve. You can go out into Red Rock. You can drive just a short distance to get into California. So it's a jumping off point for kids and for families. Yeah, it's possible.
I think there's tons of places.
There's tons of places out here, yeah.
What are your thoughts with all right, so people, they always think it's just a Strip. So yeah, people, if you have kids, you come in with kids, there's some things to do, but there's a lot of other places that you can basically go in general. Here's a question for you. It's interesting. I know you speak the truth, and I speak the truth as well. They always talked about, all the marijuana places that basically came to town, and all that money was supposed to, I believe, go towards education, the taxes, and so on. You're probably more educated than I am. I just knew that was the thing. Just like lottery goes for education. Yeah. What's your thoughts with all these marijuana places that come to town? Where is that money? Do you know? Are you familiar with that? Where's that money going? I mean, isn't it supposed to go to education?
I don't know where they kind of earmarked those funds for. The last time I looked at the stats, because I was trying to teach the channel about it, most of the money that comes out of here is from gaming revenues, obviously, but places you'd not expect it, like cigarette and tobacco taxes. So I don't know if cannabis is lopped in there because it wasn't represented. Maybe they just didn't have the current numbers. But yeah, it would be nice to know where that money actually is going, because that industry is growing like crazy.
It's all cash business, and it's all over the place, and people going there. I mean, there's money being made. That money should be going back towards education.
You think so? But we have a really nice football stadium. You ever hear about that? Yeah, that's a tax. And that's an example of what do? You balance it, right? So they say, we're going to build Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play for the NFL, right? So that's going to institute, that's going to mean we need a new tax. So they did. They're taxing the tourists that are coming into town fractions of room rates. So they put that into the stadium, hoping that's going to pump money into everything, and then COVID happens. But, there's supposed to be 26 big events a year at Allegiant, which brings in more people, which in turn, in theory, brings in more revenues. But I don't think that there's anybody on either side of the political spectrum, and we don't talk politics, but I don't think if you're left or right, you'd think that the government spends money correctly. So I don't know. Maybe we need separate accounting agencies to look at this stuff and really show us what's going on, because it's like, you ever seen those reports?
These days, I don't even look at this stuff.
Hundreds of pages long. That's where they try to. This is
They
where
add
your
some
money's
extra
going.
stuff into it.
It's ridiculous. No, the budgetary reports are hundreds of pages.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can understand them. You need a degree from UNLV to get it.
Yeah.
So I can't say for sure, but I sure hope that it gets better out here. We need more teachers.
So I know back in the day when I used to go to casino and basically you had your phone out if you were in the sports book.
Yeah.
Now it's okay, right, to have your phone out.
They want you to have it out in the sports book because they want you to be gambling anywhere else. They all have their apps for
But
mobile
before
gaming.
you weren't able to, right? There was
Right.
the security would come over, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you would think that more people are gambling more with their phone, meaning that with other people as well. But they have the apps now, right? They have apps now you can gamble anywhere, right?
Yeah. Actually, what got the casinos, a lot of them through the pandemic was online gaming and betting on mobile apps. So, for example, Treasure Island, owned by Phil Ruffin, one of the things that he did was he took out the buffet. He said, okay, no more buffets. And then they brought in William Hill, which is a sports book operator. It's an offshoot of a British company, built a brand new racing sports book. And all these companies, they posted most of their profits came from online sports books. That's what it did. So BetMGM is an app that you have. I don't gamble on pretty much. I don't gamble at all. But if you wanted to bet and you're registered and you're in Nevada, period, download the app, make an account, fund it with some money, and you can be sitting at any place in the entire state. And as long as you're over 21, you can bet. And that's how they're making their money right now. It's a big deal.
So then what about the lottery situation? Like, how come we don't have the lottery? Like in New York City, lottery, scratch-offs, the regular lottery, that money goes to education. So you have all this gambling. Now you have apps. Like, what's the problem with the lottery?
Well, I mean, so I can't say, this is all just hypothesis, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all about lobbyists, and it's about people that have tons of money that run the casinos that say, hey, we'd rather that people who are here
Go to the casino.
spend your disposable income on a slot machine. It's kind of like playing the lottery 100 times in a row. The difference is that, having 100 physical scratch tickets in California in your hand that's this thick, it's a lot different than a virtual spin on a machine. And so
Absolutely.
people lose themselves more in the slot than, there's a handbrake in your head that says, wait a minute, why do I have 100 things in my hand? So it's addictive to some people, but not to all people. And I don't gamble. I do it on my channel once in a while. People say, go play slots. I don't get anything out of it. I do it for their service to them, and they like it. But I'm just not one of those people, I guess.
As long as they send you money through a cash app to go gamble $20.
It's not about that. I don't.
I'm always, when I was, when my friends would come to town, from New York City, and they would play roulette, whatever. If I lost $100, I was upset. Like I could have spent that money somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
But always wanted to learn like craps or the other things in general. But I just never had a chance to basically really do it, and I'm probably better off not learning it anyway.
Oh, I've never met them in real life, but there's some really nice guys called Casino Quest down at the Fashion Show Mall. And the way it works, Fashion Show Mall on the Strip, if you're here in town, go check them out. I don't know them. I'm not paid for this.
Got it.
You can go and pay a set amount per hour, and they'll teach you how to play all those games, and you can just go play for fun. And it's actually just set up. It's a safe place for you. You don't lose any money because you're paying $30 an hour or something like that just to play with virtual chips and all that stuff.
What's this? I didn't hear about that.
Yep.
Is that new? Brand new?
No, it's been around for a while. They actually managed to keep it open during the pandemic, so I'm impressed.
So what are your thoughts? So I'm not an expert. COVID, all this other stuff going on. I mean, I was calling this show the comeback from COVID in Las Vegas, the comeback of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I figured you were a perfect person to talk to. So what are your thoughts in regards to, I know you're not a doctor and stuff like that in general. What are your thoughts in regards to what's going on in the Strip? Because you go out, you said you're live Fridays and Saturdays.
Yep.
How many hours do you go out for?
Last week I did one that was 5 hours long on Friday, and I think this Saturday night was 3 hours long.
So tell me how that works. You're walking. Who's the camera? Is it?
I'm the camera. So the live stream's on any platform. When it's mobile, it's always going to be like just a cell phone camera and a mobile app. And I have a gimbal, and what I do it a little bit differently. So I always listen to talk radio like Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, and there's another guy named Phil Hendry that most people haven't heard of, but he's fantastic. And the audience makes the show. So I read as many of their comments as I can, and they ask me questions. And sometimes I just go off the top of my head on other topics. But we show everybody the Strip while we're walking see what's going on. And I started interviewing people that are here that want to just be on the camera. So I'll let anybody kind of bomb the camera from behind. And I say, do you want to promote something? Everybody's got a TikTok or an Instagram or something to promote. So I just let them promote and do their thing, and maybe it helps them out,
So do you decide how many hours that you go out? Like what makes you decide how many hours?
I like to do a minimum of 2 hours, but it just depends on how I feel and how people are kind of feeling the energy of the Strip and all that kind of stuff. And depends on if a casino decides to shut me down entirely, going back to the whole thing about cell phones. It's happened a few times.
So I think I saw that I think you were downtown by Circa or something like that.
Right.
I mean, do you normally go inside the hotel as well?
I try not to. Like the hotels are like your house. Okay, imagine
Private property.
You had a big house party, and you know there's that one person in your neighborhood that can't have one drink and he turns into a madman. Mm-hmm. You could tell him to leave. Everybody else is invited, and it's the same with the casinos. They can ask you to leave for any reason, and they have hard policies most of the time on filming in casinos. You see us do it. Some of them are very tolerant, but if they ask you to leave, like Venetian, you're never going to get in there with a camera. They'll be all over you. They'll ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, they call the cops on you. So I just do a lot of the stuff outside and see a lot of the sights, and people seem to like it. And I'm like, are you sure you're not bored yet? No, we want to see it all. So there I am.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Especially probably the last year for COVID, like people were basically home and then maybe we watch you. But now you're more active. For the last year, were you that active?
Oh, yeah. No, I posted in the last year maybe 600-700 different videos.
Got it.
Last year.
So basically, like I don't watch your show all the time. I quickly go on here and there, recently. So what are your thoughts basically what's going on the Strip in Fremont? A lot more people out. It seems like much more active. I remember when the Strip was just totally empty. Nobody was out. It was like shut down.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your take on it right now?
Well, my take on it now is it's healthy. It's healthy in terms of people coming here. You have a lot of drive-ins from California happening. 45 million people almost come here a year. Last time we had regular numbers, 25% of them are from California. So you're going to get your drive-ins from California, but the demographics shifted. They went way upside down and strange over COVID. Mm-hmm. So, COVID targets people who are older. They're most at risk. So for a long time, you didn't have people that were over 55, 60 years old coming to town. Now people are getting vaccines, they're coming back. So for the last year, it's been really young demographic, 20s and 30-somethings. They've been doing their thing. Now it's people that are, it's shifting. It's the people that are coming in that Vegas really loves. The casinos love people of a certain age range, right? They have disposable income. They spend 3.7 days here, according to the LVCVA, the Convention of Visitors Authority. Those are the ones that they need back. So when those people come back, international comes back, it's going to be 100%. You and I think it's 100% if we go out there because we don't have a memory clear of what it really was before. So if you actually look at pictures of Fremont Street when there's a free concert, there's 30,000 people in a radius the size of this building. You're not getting that right now, but everybody thinks it's more active because they remember a year ago when there was nobody out there. So just to summarize that, it's getting better on a weekly basis. It's always dictated by what the governor does out here. When he's throttled it down to 25%, there was nobody out there because they don't have hotels to stay in. But every single weekend builds on the last weekend, builds on the last weekend, and it just gets better and better from here. I'm calling it the Vegas Renaissance on my channel. Somebody gave me that term and started saying it, and I thought it was great because this is a renaissance for the city. It's going to reinvent itself in a lot of ways.
So, a lot of people since retired police officers, they're asking like, why is there more crime? Like my parents, it's dangerous. They don't want to go. And
right.
You talk about the Strip and people don't want to come back because it's dangerous. So you believe there's a younger demographics that's coming out here because the people that are older, maybe, I would assume most of them have gotten their vaccination shots, but maybe they don't feel as comfortable because the whole wearing the mask, not wearing the mask, like, my parents, they're 75. They go back and forth, like they're wearing the mask is half down, it's half up, it's half their nose,
Oh, I know.
So it's all over the place. I know that you're big with masks as well.
Yeah, so I'm an advocate of wearing masks only because I wore one for the last year and I managed to go to the Strip hundreds of times and I never was diagnosed with a positive COVID test. So there must be something to that. And plus, if somebody's walking at me and they sneeze, I'd rather be wearing a mask than not,
Good point.
So I'll just briefly say this. My wife makes these masks. They're from VegasFaceMask.com. And they go around the back of your head just like that. So if somebody wants to check that out.
So what is it, Vegas?
VegasFaceMask.com, no S at the end. She hand makes them.
Travis, if you could throw that on the website when you have a chance and so we could look at it real quick.
And she started doing that only because, we had to start wearing masks and nobody likes the surgical kinds. They go down your nose. These ones will never fall down your face. You can wear them. They don't fog up your glasses. And it's just, you hedge your bets. So speaking of face masks. Prevention. You have to wear them in a casino. When you're outside now, you don't have to wear them unless you're in a big crowd. But guess what? You're in Vegas. It's a big crowd. Mm-hmm. Do people like wearing them? No. Do I like wearing it? No. But I'd rather wear a good one. And that's why we do that. But, you're talking about the older generation coming back. Maybe they don't want to. Crime on the Strip. Yes, crime got to be a problem last year. It really, really did. There were shootings on the Strip. This isn't on my YouTube channel. I can't say this because YouTube censors heavily on violent stuff. There were shootings on the Strip. There were deaths on the Strip. There was violent crimes on the Strip. There was a riot in the Wynn and the Encore. There was a video of it. And the Wynn and the Encore is suing all of those people just to uphold
for filming it?
For filming
for allowing access?
For having it happen. They're suing the people that were in the fight because they have to protect their brand as an upper brand, right? So What happened there? I don't know. And it's such a touchy topic. You know, nowadays people point out horrible things like skin color and age, and they blame that stuff. I think it's people that were pent up for a very long time, and they kind of lost most of their social niceties, and they're kind of like on edge. And we've been on edge. The news makes you on edge. Everything makes you on edge. So you're just basically like you're glycerin. You're going to explode. But the Metro's done a really good job. I'm sure you know people out here in Metro. You have friends, right? And they have Operation Persistent Presence. If you go on the Strip, one night I counted 47 Metro officers in a 2-hour period. So they're out there to show people, hey, you come out here, you try to cause any trouble, we're right there. You can't run this way, you can't run that way. There's Metro out there. And they're super nice. They take pictures with tourists. You know, thankfully out here, the Metro is, so let's explain it this way. Metro is 3 unified police forces. It's North Las Vegas, Henderson, and the city of Las Vegas. They don't have a reputation for having issues like some police forces seem to. So there's no complaints against them. Everybody's really cool. They take pictures. They talk to the crowds. They're really nice people. And I think that's helped a whole lot. And I think if the image slips too much, then people will be more afraid to come back. That might be part of it too, what people see on the news, because man bites dog, that's not news. Dog bites man, that's news, right?
You know, I know Sheriff Lombardo. I think he's a good guy. I think there's good leadership there. I think when police departments have poor leadership or are not transparent to the community, especially now cameras are out. I mean, we've been fortunate, I think, for the city not having, major problems like other cities. I think also the visibility of Metro basically walking down. The whole point of being in uniform and on a footbeat is for crime prevention, right? So you see the officer, I don't commit a crime. I mean, some people used to say, oh, why are all the police cars marked? I mean, because if they weren't marked, then you wouldn't know the police were out there and crimes would be more committed. So having uniform, marked cars and marked uniform officers is preventing crime. So the whole theory is, I'm not sure if you know this, but the reason why you see a marked patrol car and then the person that's about to commit a burglary sees the patrol car, says, you know what, I'm not going to do it right now, and then, I'm going to do it in another area, and they drive, 10 minutes away, there's another cop pulling with someone over for a traffic stop. The problem is the true criminal thinks that person's being stopped for something more than just the tail light out or something like that in general.
Right.
And then it's supposed to prevent someone from not committing crime in another area. So the whole point of having police pulling people over is actually preventing crime from taking place.
I did not know that.
So think about it. You have police officers all over the place. Now, they also say when somebody gets a traffic ticket that it actually changes their behavior in regards to driving conditions, right? Like if they're driving really fast, they get a ticket. They say, I don't know what the stat was, is like 48 to 72 hours, it changes someone's behavior.
Right.
So basically they will slow it down because they got a ticket. If you get a warning, they feel excited that they got a warning. So basically within like 6 to 12 hours, they start driving recklessly again.
Yeah.
So the whole point of giving tickets out is to actually slow people down. And the number one death in any city all of the United States is accidents, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think Metro does a good job in the Strip, and I think being very them being transparent and talking to the community is good in general. So I mean, I think that people should be coming back to Las Vegas. I think it is a safe city. Things happen all over the place, but it is. I mean, what people forget is that the Strip is just one large street. Like if you had one large street in any community, you keep seeing it happens on that one street. I mean, that street is all over the place in other cities. So
well, ours is magnified.
Yeah.
So ours is amplified to no end. This is Las Vegas Boulevard. This is the Strip. And so people are going to look at it skeptically. They're going to look at it way harder. And it's not any more full of crime than it was a few years ago, unfortunately. And the crimes that happen a lot of the time, we're to blame for the crimes that happen. So case in point, I used to work near the Miracle Mile shops outside the door, and there was a little restaurant. I won't name it, but they had the mall. So the mall is right here. This is the walkway, and people would sit, and there was an outdoor patio that was really indoors, and they would take their phone and they would stick it right on the ledge by that walkway. And
people still.
And there was a syndicate of young kids that would watch for that phone, swipe the phone, and run away. And they knew exactly where to run away. So if you're going to take preventative measures to be safe, the same common sense you'd use anywhere else, you're going to find yourself not being a victim of crime. So nobody likes to be a victim, and everybody wants to play the victim, but sometimes it's ourselves to blame. I was on a bus in San Diego. I had a brand new iPod video, and I was being dumb, and I was sitting near the back door, and somebody ran when the bus stopped, grabbed it out of my hand. I shouldn't have had it out on a bus. I don't know. I can't say I'm 100% to blame because that guy's a bad guy, but what are you going to do?
They say, I forgot there's a triangle in the police model, but basically if you take away the opportunity, then the crime wouldn't be committed. So
Precisely.
if you're leaving something out, basically someone's going to steal it.
Yep.
How much of you know? So I've been retired for the last 6 years, and basically I've been working with different law firms. So like Defenders, basically criminal defense is one of the firms I was working with. And most of the people, believe it or not, that are getting arrested are for like DUI and for domestic battery, which I think is common all over the United States. Most people that were coming into the office basically were basically good people and just made a mistake. But some people would come in, whether it's drugs here and there. But, drugs, pretty much marijuana is legal now. I mean, people can come and smoke. The problem that I find is that most people that are smoking marijuana, basically, they think that they can drive within like an hour or two.
Yeah. And
it's about this live THC, the amount of nanograms in your blood that makes you the DUI. But it's very easy to get arrested for DUI. If your eyes are like bloodshot and watery and red, basically, and you smell a little bit of marijuana, it's probable cause to believe that you're basically driving under the influence. So a police officer could arrest you. Probable cause is 1% over 50%. And then whether or not you truly show up with live THC in your blood or alcohol, that's another story. But the police officers, all they're worried about is there probable cause to arrest somebody? So, but I think DUI with marijuana definitely is an issue. When you go out and about, have you ever experienced any type of crime? Have you seen anything in general, like safety-wise? Do you feel unsafe at all? I mean, you're probably walking more Vegas than the average person.
You know when I felt unsafe? I felt unsafe when there was no people here. So I went down when it was all shut down for 78 days. The casinos were boarded up, literally. The funny part was they didn't know what to do with the casinos because casinos are never supposed to close, right? So they don't close. So they have
There was no contingency plan.
There's no locks on a casino's door. You might have a little lock on the top and the bottom, but that's easy to get into. So they would have to board them up, and they put chain locks. And by the time 78 days ended, some of them had cut out big giant pieces of plywood. And anyways, when there was nobody out there was police at every single entryway of all of the hotels to make sure people couldn't go into the parking garages and the structures on property. But there was no other cops anywhere. And there was still some aggressive panhandler types. But, homeless people are not dangerous people. That's just a misconception. Desperate people are dangerous people. And so some of the people that have remained on the Strip no longer had the tourist flow of revenue to feed themselves and income to feed themselves. Now they were desperate people. And that's the only time I really ever felt unsafe on the Strip. Other than that,
because you saw like homeless people?
Because I saw the aggressive homeless people that would come up behind you and start cursing you out in your ear, but there's nobody else around you. It's just me and a YouTube audience, and they're hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. So there's nobody there, and you feel like very exposed at that point.
There's no one around.
There's nobody around you, just you and this other person, right? But other than that, no. I mean, there's parts of the Strip that you probably shouldn't walk at night. Like, for example, they just opened the Virgin Hotel. It's on East Harmon Avenue. It's about 20 minutes away from the main Strip. Don't walk there at night because the number 2 spot for police 911 calls annually is the little weekly hotel room called Harbor Island right next to it. And sorry, Harbor Island, it's a fact. That's where the Virgin is. So that's a place I would probably not tell my friends or family to walk. North of the Stratosphere, there's a bit of a no man's land around the former Wet and Wild site, Fontainebleau. Probably don't want to walk there at night because there's not a lot of streetlights and there's no people. And if there's no people, there's nobody to reinforce that bad guys are going to be seen. That's it. Don't expose yourself.
I don't know why by the Hard Rock Hotel, now Virgin, it always seemed that area was more prone. I don't know why. It just seemed that I know that the particular weekly spot. It's very open, like land there and junk like that. I went there a long time ago. Someone that needed some help and unusual situation that basically was there. But it just seems a tough spot. So I know you go to all the different hotels. So have you been into just to recap. So I know the spots that you're talking about. I think that anywhere you go, honestly, people think that it's very close by that you could walk to it, where you could visually see it.
Right.
But it does pay to probably take rideshare or a car instead of driving when you're off the Strip.
Yeah.
And then by Stratosphere, I mean, I know there's a lot of changing going on in general, but I think it does. Once you're off the Strip, I think you should I think it's anywhere. If you were in New York City, I wouldn't tell you to like take some random street down the street to go to another location. So you need to be careful wherever you are.
Times Square, safe. That little side street, not your hometown. You don't know what's down there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about the new, so the Hard Rock Hotel went out, Virgin just opened up, haven't got a chance to go down there. What's your take on what they did over there? Empty? Some of the people were saying it's empty, no one's in there, but it's beautiful.
Oh, I don't have a complimentary take on Virgin at all. The first night they opened, it's a funny story. All these live streamers, myself included. I'm not a live streamer per se, so I have to say something. There's 2 types of people on YouTube. Some people just live stream all the time, and some people actually do actual informative videos. I do news updates, analytics, analysis on what's going on. I do short films, and then 2 times a week I live stream. But everybody wanted to see the Virgin Hotel, so they all went to live stream. I got told to leave twice, and the second time they threatened to 86 me. And meanwhile, there was 4 or 5 others inside. And then a few days later, a very 100,000 subscriber YouTuber from California called All You Can Vegas. He's a great guy. They shut him down sitting in a restaurant, says you can't film here. So they have these weird policies down there. What they didn't know is that a friend of mine is a high roller with Caesars, and he also games out in Connecticut at Mohegan when he visits his mom. They offered him a room. He didn't like it. He gave it to me to review the next weekend, which was kind of hilarious. And but I don't know what they have drawing you to it. So what did the Hard Rock have? It had rock and roll memorabilia. People, I used to stand on the strip. People say, "Where's the Hard Rock?" I say, "Do you want a burger? Or you want to see the rock stuff?" "Oh, I want to go see Tom Petty's jacket, or I want to go see Slash's guitar." They had a reason to go all the way down to Hard Rock. Hard Rock is gone now. Virgin doesn't have any of that stuff in there, so they're going to be hard pressed to bring people to that property as a destination. People go to the Bellagio to see the Bellagio fountains. It's a $400,000 a month obligation Bellagio does to get him in the hotel. What do they have to get them to the Virgin? So when you're seeing it dead, there's a reason for that. It's a big brand in the UK. They have an airline. They're booking travel packages to come here from the UK, but no one can come here right now. So now what they're doing, they're going all in on fights. Boxing, UFC, concerts. They got to have a destination, and they're trying to go in for that. So I hope they survive. I don't want to see a property close. People lose their jobs. But they have kind of backwards policy on what they're doing with the social media people and the bloggers and everything like that. And they have some weird other policies.
The food situation or something like that?
No, it's weird because Virgin owns the building. Mohegan Sun, which is a tribe out of Connecticut, they do the gaming on the floor, and Hilton runs the rooms. 3 separate entities. The same guy that gave me the room, they gave him a 3-night comp, and then they tried to charge him his entire stay, arguing that he didn't game enough. And he was livid. He's like, "You're telling me my $2,000 loss wasn't enough for you?" They tried to bill him the entire amount. So it's like they're in a spot where, from what I understand it, Mohegan buys the rooms from Hilton because they own the rooms, but they're all on one property. You follow me? And then if they don't feel like there's enough of a loss on the floor, they don't want to pay Hilton for the room. So they're going to try to charge the guest for the room. So that's a big thing with some gamblers and some people who actually collect comps. They don't like that policy very much.
So it's like having 3 different businesses in one hotel. And
it's weird. It's like if your McDonald's restaurant had, one company making your hamburgers, one company making your fries, and one company's making your chicken McNuggets. It wouldn't make sense.
I realize you'll laugh at this. Me being the problem solver and basically being a retired police officer, I always try to help people in different ways. So people call me all the time for different things in general.
That's what I've heard.
But you keep, but you keep mentioning trespassers. So I guess my number should be speed dial for you. So God forbid, knock on wood here, you get arrested for trespassing. I'm going to have to call my local bail bondsman to basically get you out and then basically handle the court case. But you got to be careful wherever you go, because I know a lot of times when you take out the camera, they're always against it. And then certain security officers are a little bit more aggressive, maybe verbally or physically, more than others, right? I'm sure you experienced different security. There
was a situation where, so on Fremont Street, they announced Fremont Street experience.
To go through the...
they announced that you need a filming permit, 2 separate permits, one from Fremont Street Experience, one from the city of Las Vegas. And I called and I asked, because I always call ahead, and I said, "What's this thing about filming permits? What is that? Is that professional cameras? Because if you try to bring in a professional giant camera to the Golden Knights hockey team game, they're going to kick you out until you get a permit." I said, "Well, I'm just a guy with a little gimbal and a cell phone." They said, "Oh, no, you're fine." Flash forward a week later, I'm doing a live stream, and in front of like 1,600 people, this guard starts reading me that I need permits and you need to leave and so on and so forth. So I have a friend named Richard Wilk, and he works down at Circa, and he's one of the executives there. He connected me with the head of all of the marketing for Fremont Street Experience, and I talked to him like rational human beings. He said, "No, you're fine. That guard was wrong," and that guard never bothered me ever since. But yeah, you always run that risk. You always run that thing for these companies not wanting you down there. But it's just strange. They're trying to stop bloggers on the strip. They don't like them out there in public in general. And I think that has to be some kind of First Amendment type of freedom of speech issue.
Just to share with you, I know that you have about 50,000 subscribers. I was thinking about what things I could offer, the people that may listen to this in the future. But I will share with you that if any of your the subscribers that come out to Vegas and they happen to get a traffic ticket, not that I want people to be driving recklessly, within Vegas, but if they do, I have some connections with the law firms locally in town, like ticket busters and defenders, basically that could help out. And I'm sure I could basically ask them to waive fees, legal representation fees. Again, not that I want people to drive reckless because they cause accidents, but I mean, I don't don't like when people get points and, the insurance goes up and it gets more expensive and so on. So as long as we have some good people and they basically made a mistake, I'd be more than happy for your subscribers to help them out with any type of ticket situation or any type of legal issue that they basically have. If they have a problem, they can call me, the problem solver. And
what's your number?
So basically, I have two things. I have an app, which is a progressive web app. It's the problemsolver.vegas, and that app is basically you can connect at any time. And then my number is 400-7474, area code 702. So 702-400-7474, and I believe it should be on the screen right now as well. So if anybody wants to call or text, I'm literally 24/7. I answer the phone like any type of problem that someone has. It's funny because I got a phone call this morning. Someone was asking, they were asking they have a problem with their computer. Okay. And they're calling me, And then I have someone that actually had a dog bite the other day that was a really bad dog bite. And I connected them with a local attorney in town to basically get them help and car accidents and one that they're trying to sell their home and basically trying to evict somebody. So any type of problem that any of your subscribers have, if they're in Vegas, I'm totally 24/7. I will send a car, limo to pick people up, take them to whatever destination if they need some type of legal help. Yeah. And I kind of the whole Vegas experience of customer service, like it's Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton. But if I can help any of the subscribers and viewers, definitely keep me on the speed dial with that.
One more thing about that. What most people don't know is let's say you get some misdemeanor or felony thing on you and you live on the other side of the country. If you have somebody like you that can connect them with an attorney, the attorney goes to court for you out here. So they will most likely be dismissed. You'll have nothing on your case, but otherwise you're expected to show up to court. What are you going to do? Fly across the country every 3 months or something like that while you're dealing with your issue? That's why you hire a good attorney. They show up to court for you, they represent you, and you connect them with that kind of person, right?
Absolutely. So, we have a connection with it's called Las Vegas Legal Network, which is a network of attorneys. And then we have different attorneys basically through the Las Vegas Legal Network. It's called the Defenders and Ticket Busters and the Richard Harris Law Firm that basically are helping the different people that call me. And I try to vet out certain attorneys that I believe in. So at this point in time, basically, if somebody needs help, and also some lawyers basically don't specialize in certain things, like some don't specialize in dog bites or trespassing. So, at this point in time, I have a network of attorneys helping people, but it's people that I trust, and it's not about the money. It's about resolving their issue. And if people make a mistake or it's an accident or an injury or stuff like that, I want to get people, the help that they basically need. And as a retired police officer, I use my background experience to help people in all different ways, and I really just enjoy doing it. And I was a cop for 17 years. I've been retired for 6, working, in different, law firms. But my goal is really to help people. And even if I didn't need money whatsoever, I would still do this. I just feel like I'm not in uniform any longer. And I want to basically help people, and I just enjoy it,
It's great.
What are your thoughts? So I actually, what's your take on, the other day we spoke for a quick minute about real estate. It's kind of crazy what's going on in Vegas right now. People that want to move here.
Right.
What are your thoughts about real estate in general? I'll share my thoughts, but I wanted to hear, you're out and about. You talk to so many people. What's your take on it?
Well, so right now it's a challenge if somebody's going to come out here to try to buy a home, because there's no inventory for the houses, right? So if you're trying to buy a home, there's going to be 10 people fighting over one property, and then it becomes and then so it's a seller's market is what they call it, right? So that means that if you have a house to sell, you can choose your buyer, right? So essentially, cash offers are very common out here, and cash offers over listing price are very much the case out here too. So if you come in and a house should be worth $365,000, that's I think that's the median. It might have gone up again. Then somebody's offering $400,000 for that house. They're paying cash for it. What happens a year from now when the market readjusts? Because it always does. This thing goes in cycles. Okay, we have a stock market goes up and down, housing goes up and down. What happens in a year from now, 2 years from now, where that $400,000 house you paid cash for is now only worth $365,000? You lost $45,000 or $35,000 on it. Oh, bad, too bad, so sad for you. But you have the best asset of your life. So people ask me if they should buy a home. I say, well, if you absolutely have the resources and you can make that cash offer and you love the house and it's right for you, consider it. Otherwise, if people are relocating here, our rental prices have not gone up that much. And unfortunately for a lot of people, there was a ruling today that the CDC was overstepping with an eviction moratorium. That was supposed to go to June 30th. So I pray for those folks that are facing eviction. There might be the rental market might crater right now. Last time I rented something, it was like $1.25 a square foot. That could fall substantially. So it might be a better city to rent in for now until the market stabilizes versus to buy a house because you can buy a house. It's not really a buyer's market. It's going to be a tremendous strain on your move.
So, I kind of, my hobby is real estate, investing in general. I've been to a lot of different seminars. So they always talked about this real estate cycle in general.
Yeah.
But what's weird about it is I always felt like things will change. I mean, the last time this, Spanish flu, 19, what is it, 19?
18. 1919. 1819, yeah.
I mean, housing is different than it was 1918. It's 100 years later in general. But the bottom line is that people say the cycle of real estate, but the problem is when the government gets involved, things change.
Yep.
So before it was all about the short sale, and now it's all about the forbearance, right? That they're putting the money on the back end. So the government is kind of more prepared in my eyes that basically just to put all the money on the back end, or they're making a 30-year mortgage a 40-year mortgage. So the problem is they don't want these foreclosures to happen. They don't want the real estate to tank.
Yeah.
And I think that when the government's involved in it, so I don't really foresee another foreclosure market. I mean, I purchased, over 10 homes back in 2009. Homes were $100,000 that are now $350,000.
Yeah.
So the problem with it is that when the government's involved in now, there's no foreclosures anymore because they're going to say they're mandating forbearances to take place. So
Sure.
and then interest rates are so low that technically the amount of money that if you buy a home for $350,000, you have a home basically maybe your mortgage is $1,650, rent could be $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. So it still pays to own something right now because rates are lower.
Right.
So it's a weird situation. I don't see foreclosures happening. People say, I'm going to wait for the foreclosures. I'm going to wait for the short sales.
I don't see foreclosures. I see an adjustment in the market. Okay?
Got it.
So let's say you're you, for example. Okay, you have a bunch of people, and they're all just regular working folks, and they have to be in a house, but they can't pay their bills, and there's an eviction moratorium, so they stop paying their bills, and there's nothing you can do about it. Part of how you pay that bank note is by taking their money and paying the bank with it. You already have another property you're paying into. You don't have another $1,600 monthly in income rolling around, so you rely on them to pay that note. The eviction moratorium comes, and they have the ability to move those people out to get new people in, but they're already behind on things. And when people fall upside down, it's like the last time it was on a massive scale. This time it'll be on a much shorter scale, but there's a likelihood that they will either dump that, or maybe in a better situation, they'll work with the banks to change their mortgage around. But if people start dumping the properties because they couldn't get money from their renters, which is why the eviction moratorium was hurting those people in a lot of ways, you could see a readjustment. That's all I'm saying about it.
I agree.
I hope that doesn't happen.
It's just a usual situation. But the thing was, all these people, if they own a lot of homes and they have mortgages, they just call the bank. It's forbearance. Money's at the end, or you convert it to 40 years. You didn't pay all this time.
Yeah.
Now the biggest thing is over the next 6 months, what's going to happen to all these people with possibly being evicted? And supposedly rents are up actually dramatically is what I'm being told with rents. And then also they want a double, what is it called? They want 2 months or 3 months security deposit now.
Oh, it's tough. They want a 700 credit score, and they want all this extra money, and you better be a salesman if you want to get a place out here and rent a place, and you don't have everything absolutely perfect. So it is tough for some people, and they move into weeklies, and they find a way,
What's your, it's funny, the other day someone called me, they needed a home. They needed like a weekly. They said they called Siegel Suites, which Siegel Suites right in Vegas has like 15, 20 locations, right?
Yeah.
And they said every single weekly was taken.
Of course.
And they said that they said, one's available. They went there, it was gone.
Yeah.
They already sold out. So every single suite was sold out.
Oh, yeah.
So there's like so people don't have a place. It's crazy. I mean, it's just so funny how it just changed so quickly that I don't even understand it all. I mean, I just looked at some study the other day that was showing that like we didn't build enough houses in the last 10 years or something like that before. But Vegas has been such a crazy ride. I've been here 19 years. So it just seems like a crazy situation going on. I don't even know. I mean, people are saying now also like buying wood or screws, everything's more expensive.
33% increase in commodities for building right now. But if you look down, like on my drive to work, I see
apartments, right?
It's apartments. It's also office buildings. And also what people don't know about this city is we have lots of data centers. There's a company called Switch out here, and they keep building. There's a $1 billion project near the IKEA that's being built right now. So those weeklies are full, because if you're from another state and you're from California and you want to come here and have a lower cost of living and you want to make $25 an hour on a construction site, have at it. They need the help out here as much as they can get. And the one thing that the county and the state did properly is they deemed construction an essential service. It could not be shut down. And same with real estate, because that kept the wheels going on a lot of these industries and kept people working. And I take them to task for how they handled most of it, but that was a very smart thing they did.
What's your thoughts with the high rises? So I own 1 or 2 units basically on the strip on the north end, over at Sky and Allure at the north end, and this thing's changing. What's your take on high rises? You have a lot of listeners in general, like people say, how's the high rise living? Like, what's your take on that?
It's, you know, it's
Because nothing's building. There's no new high rise. I think in like the last 10 years, it's really being built.
right. You don't need any more high rises
Yeah.
right now because a lot of the people that moved into those high rises don't really live here. They just get they buy it. They're from California. They buy it so they can have state residency, so they can pay less taxes because we don't have any personal income tax for the state here. But the thing about high rises is the HOAs. The
Very
HOAs crush people. Homeowners association fees are ridiculous. It's paying for your private guard, so you pull in and there's a human being there 24 hours a day. It's paying for the pool. It's paying for the fitness facility. But I mean, somebody was telling me over at Turnberry Place, which is right behind the Fontainebleau on the north end of the Strip, it's $2,000 a month for the HOA fees before you even pay your mortgage on that place. So it's something that people have to look into when they go to buy a high rise. And if you love condos and high rises, this is probably not the city for you because we don't have a lot of them. This is the desert. We have so much land. We just built it sprawled out. Not like Miami where they got a little plot. Not like Manhattan where they got bedrock and they have to build upwards. So, I mean, high rises are good for some people. If you want to live at Palms Place, for example, you have everything right near you. But here, I don't think we're going to see a lot of high rises. You know, you ever drive past the Venetian Hotel and you'll see it's like a canvas. It looks like a building. That was the high rise that Sheldon Adelson was trying to build back in 2006. It never got built. It was supposed to be 60 some odd stories tall. And the fact that he didn't try to finish it after everything got better says a lot about the market out here for that kind of project, I think.
I think it's just because it's expensive to build.
It's expensive to build, but is it profitable in the long run? I mean, the most expensive condo that's for sale in all the history of Las Vegas right now is over at the Martin, and it's $18 million, and it's the entire top floor. I think 30,000 square feet. It's ridiculously large. Something like that. I could be way wrong. That's more than anything in the city, and that wouldn't even get us on $1 Million Listing LA. It's just a very insignificant part of the real estate deal.
What's your take? So across from Sky, basically, you have the hotel, basically that was going to be called the Fontainebleau, and then it's the Drew. What's the latest with that one?
So a couple of months ago, that was actually bought by a real estate trust company called Koch Industries. And if that name sounds familiar to people, it's because they're big, huge political contributors, and that's what they do. They collect real estate. It was bought by them and also another company called the Fontainebleau Company. So they own a small little bit in it. So plans leaked of how that was supposed to look. It was supposed to be fantastic, but it's going to cost $1.4 billion to finish out that project. And it's an eyesore. It's the largest tower on the entire Strip, the only building that's bigger than the Stratosphere. But it could come back. It's going to depend on Resorts World being very successful. Resorts World is opening June 24th here in town. And that's an entertainment-based property. So they're not counting on their gaming revenues. They're counting on Celine Dion, Luke Bryant, Carrie Underwood, Katy Perry, a bunch of different did I say Celine Dion? I said her. And they're counting on entertainment coming through. And then if that's successful, you're going to see projects around that kind of fill in. Phil Ruffin owns the Circus. He owns the Festival Lands. That's right on the other side on the corner of Sahara. He might do something with that property. It'll draw more people there. But until there's people there, they're not doing anything with that property, unfortunately, I don't think.
You know, my wife does real estate basically in town, and she's always telling people that she believes in the North End because of that corner property by Allure, Sahara, Las Vegas Boulevard. Eventually, there'll be a casino on that corner.
There could be, yeah. I mean, but he's also talking about building some kind of entertainment venue out there too. So it's really right now, casino gaming is not where the money is at. It's in the entertainment of things. You know, it's in the big events that come into town and charging huge amounts of money to get people here. And you know, Steve Wynn did this back in the 1980s with the Golden Nugget downtown. He had Kenny Rogers was his entertainment director before he was famous with The Gambler, the song. Then he had Dolly Parton come in, and when Kenny Rogers got big, it was both of them together. But he didn't sell it as anything but an experience. So they've been selling experiences out here for years.
Got it.
So if you sell the experience of staying at the Resorts World and seeing Celine Dion and doing a world-class stay, that's what gets people here. And if they don't gamble, that's okay because they put $10,000 into the stay. You don't need to have gaming revenues necessarily. And the younger generation,
They want more of the experience than anyone more than gambling.
they don't game as much. They don't.
So is the Drew is that the name, or is it changing, or?
I think it'll probably end up going back to Fontainebleau. You have brand name recognition with Miami, because the Fontainebleau is still out there and it's a brand, and it's a good, strong brand. Watch Scarface. Fontainebleau's in the movie Scarface. So I think it'll probably be Fontainebleau, but they could change it to anything. You never know.
So what's your take next door, where it was supposed to be the old Wet and Wild, right? The old Net Arena. Is that you think that's going to happen, or?
Yeah, so recently they got an extension. They had to get in by a certain date, a bond, and they had to get a plan made. So AllNet Arena is a giant, huge 22,000 seat facility. It's going to be for basketball or for mixed use events. But the funny thing about it, pardon me, it is a retractable roof stadium, so it can be a 22,000 seat basketball arena to draw the NBA here. They're gonna have movie theaters there. They're gonna have a bowling alley out there, retail complex,
More entertainment.
You see more entertainment, right? But then again, $3 billion. That's a lot of money for them to have to raise, especially in this economy right now, where travel and tourism is not necessarily happening. International people have to come back. It has to happen. And if you had international tourists come back, you could host all sorts of different things there. It would be a big draw.
So what's your thoughts with Stratosphere, basically from the new Strat? What do we call that? Is the new...
The Strat.
The Strat, the new signage that's right in front?
Strat. You know what? They've been fighting this for years. If you ask a Metro officer what the Strip is, their watch command for the Strip is it got a line and it stops at Sahara and it goes down to Hacienda Avenue, which is where the Mandalay Bay is. So they're technically on Las Vegas Boulevard, but they're not on the Strip. So they've tried all sorts of things, right? They built a big sign with cool-looking showgirls, and it says, "Thank you for visiting downtown." It makes them look like they're on the Strip. They're not. Stratosphere is actually very profitable. I think it's owned by a company called Golden Sun Gaming or something like that. And they keep posting things that Wall Street loves. And it's hard to get people to the Stratosphere. Back in the day, they would offer like $1 blackjack and weird rules on games. Right now, it's a good place to go if you like the amusement rides and all that stuff. Like they have the free fall. It's a good place to go, but Stratosphere definitely should be checked out. But I couldn't say you should stay at Stratosphere because once you step out your door, you're in a whole nother world at nighttime. It's not the glamorous Caesar's Palace. How's that?
Yeah,
it's a nice property, though.
What about, I didn't even know, you probably looked at maps. What is going on from Stratosphere all the way to downtown to, what is it, Charleston? Like, they're changing the roads, trying to make it more like downtownish?
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing a lot of work on some of the little hotels out there. And they've been trying to end leases of some older buildings and stuff like that. And they're really trying to kind of, sometimes a bad term, gentrification. They're trying to make it better.
Okay.
But, it's still a challenge because it's a kind of like this no man's wasteland, Mad Max style. Walk down there in the summertime, it's 115 degrees. Nobody wants to walk it, so foot traffic is tough. But, Pawn Stars, Rick Harrison, they did a really good job at building Pawn Plaza, and all those businesses kind of got better. It's worth a look. I would go down there 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and you got to check out the Arts District, which is in that same ballpark, because you'll be blown away by what's in the Arts District. You'll think, this is Vegas? I thought it was all casinos, and no, it's not. It's a beautiful area.
It's getting more creative in general. I think the whole downtown area in Fremont, what is it, Fremont West, East?
So Fremont East. We were down. I did a 30-minute long YouTube video with a spray artist. If you go downtown, you go down to the downtown alley, and it's this art alleyway. It's fantastic. This city has so many little treasures in it that people miss because they're looking at all the grandeur of the big buildings. But if you look closer, always look at the ground and look up, because you're always going to see something cool. Whether it's downtown and you notice that there's a fallout shelter sign on a building, there literally is buildings downtown that were built for fallout shelters back in the 50s. Like, who would have thought that, right? But what a history. I get goosebumps just actually thinking about that area. It's really cool, really promising.
What we got a few minutes left, basically. I just wanted to, I'm all about solving problems in general, and since Vegas is coming back in general, you have any suggestions for the local people or local businesses? What can we basically do? The regular people basically in the community, or the businesses, or even small businesses, what can people do to basically help the economy and the people basically in the community?
Wow.
In your eyes.
That is a really loaded question. So what can they do to help? What can the locals do to help the local community? Well, I'd say try to shop in local instances. If there's somebody doing something online and you can get it on Facebook from a local person, try to support that person versus Amazon.
Like local business instead of Amazon. Okay.
I don't have a problem with Amazon. They employ a lot of people here in Las Vegas as well, but you're feeding a giant beast, whereas you can be feeding a family of 4.
Sure.
Okay. So try to keep things local, and tell your friends and family that it is safe to come out here, especially if they've had their vaccine. And yeah, you got to wear a mask. It's a pain in the butt, but tell them that you don't believe everything that you see on TV, do you? And they'll say no. And you'll say, well, you don't believe all the news. Let me show you a good time. introduce people to here. And if they say, I don't want to go to Las Vegas, say, well, what do you like to do? And they'll tell you what they like to do, and you can find something here for them.
Absolutely.
And you can bring them in, and you can introduce a whole nother generation of people here that maybe never would have thought, because now's the perfect time to, and that would help the city a whole lot.
So if you come out here, basically, you want to do the vaccination, you got your vaccination, you want to wear a mask. Again, just to recap, your website again.
Oh, yeah. So for the masks, if you want to check out these are, they don't go around your ears. It's the back of your head, just like that. It's vegasfacemask.com. There's no S at the end. And we have like 60 different custom-made designs. I mean, we ship anywhere in the United States for free. My wife makes them by hand.
Awesome, amazing.
You know? And but if you got to wear a mask, you know, you get them in the casinos, whatever. If you don't want to buy the mask, I totally understand. You come out here, you just basically be sensible. You know, the whole thing about this pandemic, and we're out over in Pahrump, a little city outside of Vegas. It's very 1950s-ish in a lot of ways. We're at a nursery, and there's a sign. It says copyright 1989. You know what the sign had? A cartoon germ, 1989. It says, if you're sick, stay home. Wash your hands. Cover your mouth when you sneeze. And I'm like, that's common sense. And that sign was from 1989. So do common sense things, you know? And if you refuse to get a vaccine, you still want to come, cool, but just don't come out here if you got to go back home to your elderly parents or to, you know, a nursing home. Just do common sense things.
So at this point in time, if you're going to come out to Vegas, be careful in general. Wear the mask. Clean your hands. Hand sanitizer, stuff like that.
And have fun. You've been stuck in your house for a year, and, you know, and you deserve to have a good time. And this city here is always reinventing itself. You know, we haven't even touched upon the NFL draft and all these things, and we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But there's always something.
There's tons of stuff going on.
Yeah, you're going to love it out here.
So again, just to recap, so if you're on Facebook, Instagram, you're on all the different social media platforms?
I'm on everything. My primary thing is YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. It's called Not Leaving Las Vegas on YouTube. You type in not and then the letter L, it should pop right up. I post videos on a regular basis, pretty much every day. We do analysis of the news, tips and tricks for traveling here, live streams, edited videos. I just have a passion for the city. I show everybody what's going on.
No, it's amazing. And I love what you're doing in general. Like I said, this show's been going on for about 6 months, The Problem Solver, and I'm just looking to basically help people come up with some different ways of, helping people. You mentioned about homeless as well. Actually, on the problemsolver.vegas, I have a new thing, actually. It's not out yet. We're going to do like a news release, but you can click where a spot. It says homeless.
Oh, wow.
And you could actually take a photo of a spot, let's say of a camp or a person with safety wise, you know, you don't want to be on top of someone. It actually does GPS location.
Wow.
And then when you could write, you know, white male, blue shirt, wearing a Not Leaving Las Vegas hat. And basically you could take a photo and basically send it, and then it'll go to like 3-4 different agencies, and they'll reply back saying, all right, we're going to go out.
That's
fantastic. So to try to do community outreach.
Wow.
So I'm basically going to, it's on the app itself, and it'll go to 3-4 agencies. I want to do more of a mobile outreach because I feel bad when homeless are out there, and especially with COVID, right?
Yeah.
You know, like my little kids in the car, they're like, oh, should we give money something? You don't want to open the window because you don't want to catch COVID, or who knows what's going on.
Sure.
He may touch me. He may have COVID, right? So I want to basically create something. So it is on the app. And then if anyone has any type of problems, whether it's any of your subscribers or local people that basically listen to you, if they want to reach out to me for any type of problem, you know, whether someone gets arrested or accident or injury, any problem, like whatever the problem is, I'm trying to help. Even the guy with his computer's slow that he called me this morning. I mean,
how did you fix it, David?
You know, I took his name and number. I said I would have someone in my network basically give him a call back.
Okay.
So I'm basically trying to find someone in general. But it is funny that he called. But I'm having people call from all different types of things. So again, it's the problemsolver.vegas. And if any people that you basically have any problems, I'd love to help them out. And I meet people at their home or meet them anywhere in general, especially if you have people that are coming out of town. And one thing I'll share with you real quickly is that, you know, if you get arrested in Las Vegas and you lose your ID, you cannot get into a hotel.
Right.
So people become homeless because they lost their ID, they're drunk, they don't know where they're going in general. I've actually, believe it or not, got hotel rooms for people that basically haven't had an ID.
Oh, wow.
I'll set up the hotel room to basically help them out. A lot of times they've been arrested in the past. So I do feel bad. And we all make mistakes. I'm not perfect, you know, in general. No one's perfect. So, but anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. In the future, I'd like to have you on the show. You have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of people out there listening to you. You definitely can influence a lot of positive stuff in general, basically out in the community as well. So I'd like to have you back on the show again. Steven Campbell with Not Leaving Las Vegas. Again, I'm David Kohlmeier with The Problem Solver. And if you have a problem, no problem that's too small, too big, I'd love to help you out. Every single week, we'll have The Problem Solver, and we want you to be safe, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us.